Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're a fan of eerie, chilling stories filled with mystery, then today's video is just for you. In this tale, we'll dive into a journey unlike any other, exploring the darkest corners of a forest where secrets have been buried for decades. This is the story of Officer Dana Muir and her encounter with an unsettling phenomenon where nothing is as it seems. Get ready for a journey that's not only spine chilling, but also explores the darkest parts of the human mind and the things we're never meant to know. Are you ready? Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you won't miss out on the next stories. Now let's begin. The Whisper in the Pines, Chapter 1, Vanishing Point. You learn to read the forest after enough time on patrol. Every trail has a rhythm, every snap of a twig, a reason. But when Eli Hartman vanished, the forest went silent. Not just quiet, empty. He radioed me 2 nights before the storm hit. I still remember the static, the tension in his voice. Eli wasn't the type to panic. We'd hiked together on frost-bitten ridgelines, tracked wounded animals through blackout blizzards. But that night, Dana, something's not right with the trees. That was it. No location, no callback. Just the kind of sentence that sticks in your ribs. They told me he probably slipped on the rocks near Devil's Hollow, maybe fell into a crevasse or got pinned under a tree. I didn't believe it. Eli knew this forest. Better than me, better than anyone. If he'd disappeared, it wasn't because he got lost. It was because something found him. I volunteered for the search, brought both dogs, Zara and Bolt, our best. Zara was the calm one, sharp, silent, hyper-focused. Bolt was younger, wilder, but had a nose like a miracle. They were restless the moment we passed the Blackroot sign. Ears perked, whining low. Bolt started pulling toward the north ridge, away from Eli's usual patrol path. I almost corrected them. Almost. But then I felt it too. That quiet, not natural, not peaceful. The kind of quiet that feels like something's listening. We followed Bolt off trail around noon. He found an old boot print near a fallen cedar. Eli's size. Zara barked once, then froze. She was staring up at the trees. That's when I noticed it. The pines weren't growing right. They weren't straight. They curved, all inward, toward a clearing we couldn't see yet, like they were leaning to watch something. An hour later, we found him. He was standing, chained to a tree, eyes open, lips cracked, dried blood at the corner of his mouth. I ran to him, called his name, checked his pulse. He was alive. Barely. But when I reached for the padlock, he whispered, "Don't cut the chains." His voice was dry as dust. "They're not keeping me here. They're keeping it out." Chapter 2, The Canine Deployment. At first, I thought he was delusional. 5 days without food, maybe longer without water. He had to be hallucinating. Fevered, confused. He didn't even flinch when I touched his shoulder. But his eyes, they weren't frantic. They weren't lost. They were focused. Like he was still watching something, just not in the clearing. Something behind the bark, or maybe behind his mind. "Don't cut them," he said again. "I'm serious, Dana. You let me go, and it'll follow you home." He was dead calm, too calm. The chains were old, rusted, but strong, wrapped around the trunk like an offering. The padlock didn't match, shiny, modern, recently added. Someone or something had been tending this. It didn't make sense. Eli had a sat phone, backup GPS, flares, but none of it was on him, just the chains. And that burned symbol on the back of the tree. I called into base, gave them coordinates, asked for an evac chopper in the morning. Weather was already turning, and they'd need ropes to lift Eli out. But something in me didn't want to leave right away. And something in Zara didn't want me to either. She sat by Eli's feet like a statue, head low, tail flat, eyes on the woods. Bolt paced in circles, then stopped suddenly and growled, not at Eli, but at the forest behind us. That's when I noticed the trees again. They were too quiet. Eli whispered, "It watches from between the lines." I turned. "Between the what?" He didn't answer. He was staring at Bolt now, eyes wide, terrified for the first time. "They came before," he rasped. "The dogs, same coat, same eyes. But they didn't bring anyone." It hit me then. He wasn't talking about these dogs. He was talking about others, before us. And not just animals, witnesses. Zara let out a low whimper. Bolt's tail went stiff. I looked down and saw their paws, muddy with ash. Not dirt, not snow. Ash, I made my choice. I stayed. I built a fire 10 feet from Eli's tree. I kept my rifle close, and when the sun dipped behind the tree line, something changed. Zara stopped responding to commands. She just watched. Bolt whimpered once, then lay at my feet, trembling but never looking away from the trees. And I swear to God, at exactly 2:43 a.m., something moved out there. Something tall, too tall. It didn't make a sound, but the dogs, they knew it. And that was enough for me to believe everything Eli had said. Chapter 3: The Man in Chains. At dawn, Eli was still standing, still chained, still alive. His lips were blue, breath shallow and ragged, but he hadn't moved an inch, not even to sleep. I offered water. He sipped it like he hadn't swallowed in days. I offered food. He refused. "It comes when you eat," he muttered. "It waits until your mouth opens." It's afraid. I should have called it in again, demanded a medical evac, but I didn't because something had changed in me too. Something about that thing in the woods the night before. It hadn't come closer. It couldn't. And Eli's chains, those rusted, irrational, impossible chains, were the reason. The symbol carved in the bark behind him was still glowing faintly in the half-light, as if it had remembered heat. Defied. I finally asked the question I'd been avoiding. "What is it, Eli?" He didn't answer right away, just looked at Zara, then Bolt, as if checking they were still real. Then softly, I called it Whisperhead. "I don't know what it is, only what it wants. It waits for your name. If you speak it, if you speak your own name, it knows you, and once it knows you..." He trailed off. "That's when the hunger begins." Zara hadn't slept. I wanted to think it was just trauma, that he'd hallucinated this thing out of fear, cold, and isolation. But I couldn't explain the dogs. Zara hadn't slept. Bolt kept glancing behind trees, as if expecting something to peek back. They weren't scared. They were on guard, like they'd done this before, like they were part of something older than me, older than Eli, older than Blackroot itself, not wrapped. I checked the chains again. The links were embedded in the bark, not wrapped, grown into the wood like veins. The padlock had no brand, no markings, just a single symbol, a circle, bisected by a jagged line, almost like an eye closed in pain. Eli spoke again that afternoon. The first one was in 1947. A ranger named Crane, found chained to a tree 3 miles from here. Same markings, same burns. His face was torn off, but the dog sat beside him for hours, wouldn't let anyone near, not until sunset. He paused. Then they let us through, but Crane was gone. I didn't understand. Did the dogs protect us from the thing? Or did they decide who the forest claimed? When I looked at Zara and Bolt again, they were staring at me. Not at the woods, not at Eli. Me. Chapter 4: The First Night. The forest changed after dark. Even before the sun dipped, I could feel it. The air grew thick, heavier somehow, like breathing through wool. Every bird call stopped at once, as if a silent siren had gone off deep in the trees. Zara was the first to respond. She stood. Not a bark, not a whine, just stillness. Every muscle tight, head turned toward the black wall of pine. Bolt began to tremble. "You need to sit closer to the fire," I told Eli. He shook his head slowly, eyes locked on something I couldn't see. "It doesn't fear the light. It fears the name not spoken." I didn't sleep. Not even for a second. Bolt curled next to my feet but didn't close his eyes. Zara sat between me and the forest, tail still, nose high, ears pinned back like a statue carved from fear. Then, at 2:43 a.m., just like the night before, it arrived. Not with sound, with absence. A void that pressed in around the fire, that pulled shadows in the wrong direction. No footsteps, no breath. But I felt it. Standing just beyond the light, watching. Not like an animal, like a thing that remembered being human, but no longer needed to pretend. Eli spoke again, barely above a whisper. "It's listening now, trying to hear if you'll say it." "Say what?" "Your name." His eyes flicked to Zara. "That's how it binds. It can't take what it can't know. Don't speak your name here, Dana." I froze. I hadn't told him my name since we arrived, not once. Did he remember? Or had something told him? Suddenly, Bolt growled. Low, deep, terrified. Then he lunged into the dark, snarling, barking, chasing something we couldn't see. Zara didn't follow. She turned her head slowly and stared straight behind me where nothing should have been. Except when I turned, there was a shape, thin, elongated, unmoving, almost like a tree, until its head twitched. Lara didn't follow. I raised my rifle, breath frozen, finger tight on the trigger. But Zara barked once, loud, sharp, commanding, and the shape retreated, not ran, melted backward into the forest like smoke slipping into cracks between time. Bolt returned 5 minutes later, eyes wild, blood on his right paw, but not his. Yeah, you. We made it to morning, barely. Eli hadn't slept. Zara didn't blink, and I finally believed every damn word. Chapter 5. The Symbol. At first light, I finally examined the tree behind Eli. It was a black pine, at least 100 years old. The bark near his back had been burned into, not carved, branded. The symbol wasn't random, it was precise, deliberate. Two intersecting curves forming an incomplete circle, with a jagged vertical line splitting through like lightning. It felt wrong to look at, like my eyes couldn't decide what shape it really was. I reached out to trace it with my glove. Eli's voice stopped me cold. "Don't touch it. That's not for you." I pulled my hand back. "What is it?" He exhaled, slow and hollow. "I don't know its name, but the forest does." I took photos, logged coordinates, tried to send a message through satellite. No signal. No surprise. I hadn't been able to connect to command since entering that part of the ridge. It was like something was swallowing the waves, a dead zone that didn't show on any map. I went back to the symbol, studied the scorched grooves more closely. That's when I noticed something stranger. There were others. More symbols, fainter, older, etched along other trees nearby, forming a circle around Eli's tree. Some were almost completely faded. Others were newer, freshly burned. Each had its own variation. Each had names scratched beneath them. Not Latin, not English. Runes, or something older. Zara. Zara led me to a smaller tree about 20 yards out. She pawed at its base until something snapped beneath her weight. A piece of bone, clean, weathered, hollow. Bolt sniffed once and backed away, tail low. I started to dig. Only a few inches down, I hit metal. An old dog tag, Ranger issue. Crane, R 1947. I stared at it for a long time. Eli wasn't the first. He wasn't even the 10th. Alarm news. When I came back to the clearing, Eli was humming, a low, fractured tune, almost like a lullaby, but warped, twisted. I asked him where he learned it. He didn't answer, just looked at me and whispered, "It hums that when it's close." I stared into the trees, suddenly aware of every breath. The sun was up, the birds were back, but somehow I felt watched. Zara returned to her spot by the fire. Bolt sat next to the chain, and I realized something else. They weren't guarding Eli anymore. They were guarding the symbol, and that meant whatever it was, it hadn't left. Chapter 6. The One Who Waits. I've led recovery teams through avalanche zones, tracked poachers across burned land, pulled people out of snowbanks with minutes to spare. But nothing ever taught me how to handle a man in chains, too afraid to say his name, and the thing that might be waiting for me to say mine. Midday brought a strange quiet, not peaceful, dead. Even the breeze felt off, like it passed around the clearing, avoiding it entirely. Bolt sniffed the air and began pacing. Zara hadn't moved in hours. Then Eli looked at me, eyes bloodshot and dry, and said, "It's learning your shape." I stopped what I was doing, starting a fire, just for light, and stared at him. "What?" "That's how it starts. First your name, then your shape. It builds you in the dark, piece by piece, and when it has enough of you," he swallowed hard, "it sends your voice to call you deeper." I sat down across from him, kept my distance. "How long have you been here?" "Today is the 8th day." "Why didn't you run?" He didn't laugh, just gave the kind of tired smile that breaks you. "I did." He tilted his head toward the woods. "But the forest moves. You don't find your way out. You get walked back in." I asked about the chains. Who put them there? He didn't answer for a long time, just stared at Bolt. Finally, he said, "I did." I frowned. "You chained yourself." "I had to. The dogs wouldn't." He looked at Zara this time. "They only watch. They wait to see if you're strong enough to hold it back." I didn't want to ask what happened if you weren't, but I think I already knew. So that night, the fog rolled in early, thick, low, unnatural. By 7 p.m., I couldn't see 10 feet past the firelight. Bolt wouldn't stop pacing. Zara sat with her back to the flames, watching the same spot between two trees, like she was counting breaths. And then at 2:43 a.m., as always, it came. This time I saw it clearly. A tall, thin humanoid figure, made of wood and shadow. Its arms were too long. Its face, not a face. Just splinters and cracks like bark that had once remembered being skin. And in its center, a hollow, where a heart should have been. Inside it, I swear I saw my own face, mouth open, eyes wide, calling me by name, Dana. Zara growled, not at it, at me, warning me, telling me to shut my mouth, to bury my name. I clenched my jaw, covered my ears, closed my eyes, and it passed, just like before, without a step, without a sound. So when I opened my eyes, Eli was weeping. It spoke in your voice. It's almost ready. I stared into the trees. My own voice still echoed in my skull. And I realized it wasn't just trying to take me. It was trying to be me. It was trying to beeping, not Eli's. Chapter 7, Splinters in the Mind. The next morning, I found footprints. Not mine. Not Eli's. Too large for any boot I'd seen. Too deep. Almost hoofed, but not quite. They circled the clearing once, stopped 6 feet from Eli, then vanished, mid-stride, like the forest swallowed them. Zara refused to step near them. Bolt let out a low growl and pressed himself against my leg. I could feel his heartbeat. Fast. Unsteady. Just like mine. I hadn't slept, hadn't eaten in almost a day, but I didn't feel hunger. I felt watched, every second, and worse. I'd started to hear things in the trees, whispers, always just beyond recognition, like a memory slipping behind a closed door. At first, I thought it was the wind. Then I thought it was Eli. But when I turned to ask, he said nothing, just smiled, that same tired smile. "It's inside now, isn't it?" he whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't answer, because I was starting to understand what he meant. I tried writing in my field journal. Couldn't. The pen felt too heavy. The words made no sense. My name, my own name, looked wrong on the page. Like someone else had written it. I tore it out, burned the sheet, and still felt like something remembered it. Zara barked once, sharp, alarmed, and I jumped to my feet. She ran to the edge of the clearing and began circling. Bolt followed, ears back. I approached slowly. There, etched into a young pine trunk, my name, not just carved, fresh, smoking. Who did this? I asked aloud. Eli didn't look at me. You did, he said softly. I shook my head. No, I didn't. It's what it does. It builds you, first inside your head, then in the world. You think thoughts that aren't yours. You speak dreams like they're memories. Then one morning, you wake up, and it's already wearing your face. I staggered back from the tree. Zara stood between me and the trunk now, her body low, protective, almost afraid of me. He wouldn't look me in the eyes. That night I dreamed, not of home, not of rescue. I dreamed of the woods, and in the center of them, me, chained to a tree, smiling, calling myself by name. Chapter 8, The Breaking Point. I woke up screaming. Zara lunged at me, snout inches from my face, barking so hard I could feel the heat of her breath. Bolt stood over Eli, head low, a deep growl rumbling from his chest. It was still dark, but I wasn't cold. I was sweating, soaked through, like I'd run a marathon in a fever. And in my hand, a stick sharpened, wrapped with a strip of my own uniform, as if I had meant to stab something or someone. Eli didn't say a word. He just looked at me with a gaze that said, "You're almost there." "How many nights has it been?" I asked him. 4, he replied. "No, since the first one chained himself here." He hesitated. Then 78 years, maybe more. But it always ends the same way. I checked my gear, compass spinning. Watch frozen at 2:43 a.m., radio static and something beneath the static. Breathing, I turned it off. I couldn't trust anything now, not even myself. Later, I walked into the woods. Only 10 paces. Just to think, to breathe. But every tree I passed had my name. sometimes scratched, sometimes burned, once stitched into bark with something that looked like thread made of hair. I backed up, turned around, and found I'd circled back to the clearing without realizing it. That's when I understood. The forest was folding around me, not metaphorically, literally. I sat across from Eli again. My hands were shaking. "How did you last this long?" He chuckled dryly. "I didn't. That's the joke." "What do you mean?" He leaned in. "You think I'm the first one who sat here, Dana? You think I'm even the same man who walked in? I am what's left after the name is taken." Zara barked once. Loud. Bolt stood, every muscle tight. Then I heard it. Not a whisper, a voice. Clear, gentle, just behind me. "Dana." My voice, calling me. "Storger for." I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Eli closed his eyes. "If you look, it's already too late. If you answer, it wears you." I stared into the fire, sweat pouring down my neck, fists clenched, and I whispered, "I am not mine to take." The forest went silent. No wind, no birds, no breath, just firelight and the sound of something backing away, scraping against bark like claws, or antlers, or both. Chapter. When it was over, Bolt sat. Zara lay down. Eli looked at me. "You bought one more night. That's all? That's always all." Chapter 9. The Thing Beneath the Roots. By the time the sun came up, I felt different, like I had slipped into someone else's skin, a stranger's skin, one that smelled like the earth, like the roots beneath me. I was still me, but I couldn't remember how long it had been since I'd felt completely whole. I sat on a fallen log, staring into the clearing. Bolt and Zara sat beside me, still alert, still wary, but not of me, of something else. Eli had slept the entire night. The same haunted, exhausted look was in his eyes, but he hadn't moved, not even once. "Do you feel it?" I asked, my voice hoarse, as if the air around us had thickened. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking, then nodded. "It's waking up." It's gearing up. I stood up, my legs weak. My thoughts were clouded. Every time I tried to focus, a low hum filled the space between my ears, almost like a vibration, a buzz beneath my skin. Zara and Bolt moved closer to me. I reached out for them, but a strange pull held me back, a pressure in the center of my chest like something was holding me down, trying to drag me into the dirt. I looked around. The ground was trembling, the roots. There were movements beneath the soil, quick and erratic. I dropped to my knees, hands trembling as I pressed them against the earth. Then something shifted. Not far beneath the surface, something was waking up. A deep groan. Not the wind, not an animal, something older, something that had been buried for too long. I dug. I couldn't stop myself. My hands were raw, scraping against the dirt, the roots, the stone. Zara barked once, warning me, but I didn't listen. I dug deeper, and when I hit the wood, that's when I knew. The roots were alive, twisting, reaching, grabbing. I pulled back, covered in mud and blood, but not my own. The ground had opened up, a crack wide enough for me to see. The thing. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was something beneath everything we knew. Long and twisted. It had no face, no eyes, no mouth. Just darkness in the shape of a creature. But it was alive. I could feel it watching. Eli had gotten to his feet. He didn't speak, didn't move toward me. He just stared into the crack. "It won't let you leave now," he said. "It's already seen you." I looked back at him, terror rising in my throat. "What is it?" "The thing beneath the roots. It feeds on those who try to escape, on those who see it." I backed away slowly. Zara and Bolt followed, keeping their distance but staying close. The forest had become too quiet. Even the whispers had stopped. Only the sound of something crawling beneath the earth remained, the sound of roots stretching, of hunger waiting, and it was waiting for me. Chapter 10. The Call of the Void. I could feel it pulling at me. The void beneath the roots, that darkness that had been waiting for who knows how long. It wasn't just hunger. It was something older, something that had been watching, listening, waiting for me to notice. I stumbled backward, feeling the ground beneath me shift. My legs felt weak. My mind was clouded with whispers, the same ones I'd heard before, but louder now. more insistent. They weren't voices anymore. They were calls, and they were calling me down. I looked back at Eli. His eyes were wide, distant, like he was seeing something that wasn't there. He was trembling, but not with fear. He was shaking with the knowledge of something he'd known all along, that the moment I noticed the thing beneath the roots, it would be too late. "It's already in you," he said softly. "You can't unsee it. You can't unhear it." This feeling, I could feel the earth trembling again. The trees swayed, but not with the wind. Something was stirring, and I knew. I knew it wasn't just the ground that was moving. It was everything. Zara barked again, sharp and frantic. She ran circles around me, desperate to get my attention, but I couldn't tear my gaze away from the crack in the earth, the thing beneath it. I wasn't just feeling it now. I was beginning to hear it in my head. Not words, not sentences. A call, soft at first, faint like the rustling of leaves, but then louder, clearer. The pull was stronger now. I tried to fight it, tried to focus on my training, on what I knew, but the more I resisted, the stronger the pull became. I glanced at Eli. His face was pale, drained. His eyes, once full of fear, were now empty. It was as though he had already given in to the thing beneath the roots. "It takes you in pieces," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "First your name, then your shape, and when it's done, it's you. It wears you, becomes you." I couldn't breathe. The air was thick, heavy with the weight of something ancient and unforgiving. I closed my eyes, trying to shut out the voice, the pull, the call, but it was too late. The ground trembled harder now. The trees began to creak, the roots writhing, twisting, moving underfoot. The crack in the earth widened, revealing the thing that had been waiting beneath for so long. I took a step back, then another, but the pull was stronger than anything I'd ever felt before. It was like I was being dragged into a darkness I couldn't escape. I don't know how much time passed before I finally gave in, before I stopped fighting the call. It wasn't a choice. It wasn't even a thought. It was like being caught in a dream, a nightmare. I felt my mind slip, my thoughts dissolving into the void. And then, finally, nothing. Chapter 11, The Price of Silence. I woke up in silence, the kind of silence that settles deep into your bones and never leaves. It was thick, almost tangible, and in that quiet, I realized that I wasn't alone. But I wasn't sure what I was anymore. The air was still. The trees, too still. I could hear the distant creak of branches, but it was as if they were far away, like they were fading. I tried to move, but my limbs felt heavy, unnatural. I reached out, but my hand didn't feel like my own. It was as if the skin was stretched too tight, the muscles just a little too long. I lifted my head slowly, blinking into the dim light. There was a soft, eerie glow around me, but it didn't feel like sunlight. It was wrong, like a memory that didn't belong to me. I looked around, the clearing, the trees, the earth beneath me. Everything was as it had been, except I could feel it now, the watching. It wasn't just the forest anymore. It was me, the thing beneath the roots. It had reached up through me and dragged me into its dark. The crack in the earth was still there, wider now. The thing beneath it pulsed, like a beating heart buried too deep. I could feel it pulling, tugging at my insides. I tried to move again. This time I stood, and I saw the forest shift. The trees weren't trees anymore. They were tall shadows, their branches outstretched, twisting into unnatural shapes like they were reaching for me. I took a step back, heart racing, and then I saw it, Eli. Not where I had left him, not in the spot by the fire, not standing. He was kneeling, his hands pressed against the earth. I didn't call out. I couldn't. The silence felt suffocating, like speaking would break something inside me. But Eli's head snapped up, his eyes empty, not like before, not like someone possessed, more like someone lost, like a memory faded too far to be brought back. "You're here," he whispered. His voice cracked, thin like dry wood. "I knew you would be." I looked down at my hands. They were covered in dirt, like I had been clawing through the earth in my sleep. Then the ground beneath us began to move. The roots, the earth, the trees. Everything seemed to tremble, almost like it was alive. alive in a way that felt wrong. It's in us, Eli said, his voice lower now. It waits. It has to be fed. You can't escape it. I stepped back, but it was too late. The forest had already closed in. I couldn't see the sky anymore, just walls of dark bark, twisted branches, and that hum, that low, constant hum beneath everything. The air pressed against me, thick with a sense of something that didn't belong, and yet everything felt so familiar. It wasn't until then that I understood. I was no longer part of the world I knew. I wasn't me anymore. I was the thing. Eli stood up, his eyes slowly focusing. "It's too late for us now," he said. "But you can still hear it." He reached out, his fingers brushing the air between us. "It takes you piece by piece. It waits for you to stop fighting, to stop speaking. And when you are silent, it becomes you." The truth hit me like a tidal wave. The silence wasn't just a state of being, it was the price. The price of letting it in, the price of hearing the whispers, the price of facing the void beneath the roots. And then, for the first time, I understood. There was no way out. There was no escape. Chapter 12, The Final Step. The thing beneath the roots had taken me. It wasn't a sudden change. It didn't come crashing down in a moment of clarity or terror. It was slow, a creeping sensation like roots twisting through my veins, wrapping themselves around my thoughts, my breath. I wasn't sure where I ended and where the thing began anymore. Eli's voice echoed in my mind, a memory of something I once knew. "It's always been in you. You were never meant to be free." I shook my head, tried to shake it off, but I couldn't. I looked at Eli. I looked at Eli. He was no longer the man I had met in the forest. He wasn't the ranger. He was something else, something that wore his memories like a tattered coat. His face was pale, his eyes empty, no longer the eyes of someone who had been trying to survive, but the eyes of something that had given in. He was part of it now. I could feel the trees around me, feel their presence, the way the roots shifted beneath the ground, the way the leaves rustled in a language I couldn't understand but felt deep inside my chest. They were waiting, all of them, the trees, the thing, and I was one step closer to joining them. It wasn't until I felt the pull again, stronger now, insistent, that I realized I was being drawn toward it, toward the crack in the earth. The thing beneath, I wanted to fight it, I wanted to scream, to run, to anything, but I couldn't. My body refused. I moved toward it, step by step, not of my own will, but of something darker, something that had taken my will. And then I heard it, the voice, not Eli's, not the trees, but something deeper, something that had never spoken before. "Dana." It wasn't a whisper, it was a command. "Come closer." I didn't stop. I couldn't. I stepped into the crack. The earth opened before me like a mouth, swallowing me whole. I don't know how long I was in the dark. I don't know what happened between the moment I entered the crack and the moment I found myself standing once more in the clearing. But I was there, and I wasn't. Eli was still there, still standing, and yet he was gone. The trees, those twisted skeletal branches, had changed. They weren't just trees anymore. They were shapes. They were faces. And then, in the distance, I saw it. The thing beneath the roots was standing. It was me. It was my face. But it wasn't me. Not anymore. It was everything that I had feared, everything I had become. The darkness, the emptiness, the silence, and it was reaching for me. I was no longer Dana Muir. I was the thing. The forest whispered in approval. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't the end. This wasn't escape. This was the final step. The end. Thank you so much for watching The Whisper in the Pines. I don't know about you, but I personally found this journey to be deeply unsettling and full of twists. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on more eerie tales in the future. What do you think of the story's ending? Do you think Dana escaped the darkness, or has she become part of it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks again for joining me on this wild ride. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, always be wary of the whispers in the dark. They might lead you somewhere you can never return from. Sleep tight and always remember, some things should never be unearthed.